drop! Get off the road! Clearly, you don't own an air fryer. Indeed.
This just keeps on getting worse for
Let's
me.
go!
Trevor, how does it feel to be the world's most toxic gamer?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Goobers and Screens book club. I almost went into my Rat's Nest intro there for a second. Joined by Kyle. Say hi, Kyle.
Hi, everyone.
We're back with Bleach. Yay, I love Bleach.
I like Bleach too.
It took a lot of willpower to not say my Rat's Nest intro. I almost reverted. It's been a second. We're back. We're back with Bleach. For you guys, it's only been 2 weeks because last Monday was Halloween. Which is a fun fact, Kyle. On our little schedule, this is airing the Monday after Halloween.
Cool.
So happy belated Halloween, everyone. We are recording this in September, which isn't too far off.
It's a good series to start in a spooky month.
It is, isn't it? It really is. So Kyle has read chapters. He's read the second half of.
Hey, I can explain it
Already, yeah.
I read 36 through 71, which it finished the substitute arc and is slowly creeping into the Soul Society. So, on the whole, I would say that there's two major arcs to talk about now, because one thing I am happy of is, as much as I didn't mind the smaller mini arcs within the first half of the the substitute arc, I'm very happy that now we're getting into a more story-based traditional shonen sequence of events.
Yeah, we're getting into it.
The first one that we'll talk about being the Yuryu arc, and the second arc that I've read is what I would call pre-Soul Society, where the characters aren't into Soul Society yet, but it's all the events that are leading up to it. Like, we meet characters from the Soul Society, we learn more about it, we see that the characters have to train for a bit, so we get our first what I would call traditional training arc, and the sequence of events for these chapters cap off with them actually ending up in Soul Society. So let's get right into it.
Yeah, let's.
So, continuing from last time, we were introduced to Yuryu, who for some reason just really does not like Ichigo. And the last chapter that I remembered before starting these new ones was he challenged Ichigo to a game. We see that there's the backstory of the Quincy's that were killed by the Soul Reapers, because the Soul Reapers, this will be explained a little bit later, but the Soul Reapers, they cleanse souls. The Quincy's destroy it, which causes an imbalance in the universe, which is why the Soul Reapers had to just wipe them out, because what they were doing was, sure, they were getting rid of the bad guys, because I think how they described it was they didn't feel like all these evil souls should deserve salvation, so they were trying to kill them, which in turn was, fucking over the universe, so the Soul Reapers had to lay down the law and murder most of them.
That's fair.
And we see that his game, quote unquote, he wants to prove that he's superior to Soul Reapers, like Ichigo. And so, I forget exactly what he does. I think he has like a ring or something, and he uses it to attract.
It was hollow bait, is what it was.
Hollow bait.
A little bit of hollow bait.
He had hollow bait, which called in just an insane amount of hollows, and his challenge was, we're going to see who can kill the most. So Yuryu's basically putting every single person in town in danger just for his ego, which...
Lol.
Yeah, I'll say this. We've talked about, a typical shonen trope is introducing a character who is unlikable, but then later making them likable to some degree. This is that on a smaller scale, and given Yuryu's backstory, which, as you and I are famous for saying, we'll get to later.
Yeah.
I think how they introduce him and then later develop him is okay, where he's just angry that someone he cared for died at, the fault of these group of people, the Soul Reapers, which we'll touch on that later. But
it's also because he does have that ego, but it makes sense for him to have that ego. He is good at killing hollows, so he would believe that he could handle it even if Ichigo couldn't. and that kind of ego there. So I think, what do you call it? Yeah, I think it definitely it makes more sense than sometimes like pseudo villain becoming friend. I think it makes more sense than a lot of those can make sense. Like,
Yeah, it's in setting the bar of not redemption, but in setting the bar for making them go from a more bad archetype to a good archetype. I think Kubo, is it the author for Bleach? I think Kubo set Yuryu's bar decently well, where his lowest low is just him being angry and wanting to prove that he's better than Ichigo, and he even realizes later that, like, okay, what I did was irresponsible. So it doesn't take him 100 chapters to see that what he did was stupid, putting everyone in danger.
Yeah, no, and that's one of the strengths of these early Bleach like pseudo arcs is they are quick. They get in, they do what they want to do, and they get out. I mean, that's not saying anything for later arcs, because I only have experience with Soul Society, so I can't speak on any other arcs. But they're very effective as opposed to other series, like you said, that they'll take 100 chapters to do stuff. Black Clover. Oh wow, so weird frog in my throat there.
Okay. Here, I'll say this much. Okay, no, you're right. I thought you were talking about for some reason, but then I remembered. Oh yeah, there's a bunch of characters in Black Clover that are just evil, irredeemable assholes that get changed in like 2 chapters.
Yeah, but like in a bad way.
What I was thinking is like a deuteragonist. I always point to Bakugo. Spoilers for My Hero, since I'm comparing Bleach, an older shonen, to a more modern one. I think what it did before was. Granted, the characters are doing different things. I know it's somewhat unfair to compare them, but I think for trying to make a character become likable after introducing them as unlikable, I definitely think that Kubo could have done worse compared to characters like Bakugo, who I think definitely are just not. So, anyway, to cap off what we're saying with Yuryu, we'll explain why he works as a character later, because sequence of events, there's other stuff that happens before that, and what we get next were some of my favorite moments from these couple of chapters leading up to Soul Society. This one specifically, we get Chad and Orihime and their powers awakening, which I thought were really well done sections. Specifically Chad's. I am a huge fan of Chad as a character. I love his visual design. I love his personality. I like the backstory that they gave us for him. He's just
Brandon, did I just say something racist?
Did you die him? What'd you say?
That's a very good question, Brandon. What did you say, Trevor?
Honestly, I don't remember. Oh no, I called you a little piss man, a little piss boy.
I don't see how that's racist. I think you're in the clear.
I can see that.
Trevor, if that were it, I'd be completely okay with it. However, you said something extremely racist, and I can't say you brought us into a recorded setting, so I can't even say what it was anymore.
Sure. That's why I brought it to record. Brand, by the way, you have to keep all of this in episode.
No, yeah, it's going to be in the episode. Don't worry. I'd be too
yeah,
lazy to cut out a third.
You can't cut it out. Yeah. Okay. Well, that settles that. I did not say something racist.
Yeah, you definitely did.
No. Okay. Well, bye, Brandon.
So where were we?
I was talking about Chad. How Chad overall. Chad is a very simplistic character, but I think he's done very well in that simplicity, where he's just a good-hearted guy. He's a big good-hearted lad, and what this sequence does with him, projects that. Where I also like how up until this point they've had Chad fighting off hollows, not being able to see them, and having other people guide him.
Yeah, no, you could say he's a Chad. I'm so sorry.
we need a counter for any times you make those awful jokes.
Be too many.
But, I think I talked about in the last episode of Bleach where I enjoy the archetype of a character who's like two characters have to work together. One of them can see the creature, and the other one's able to actually fight it. And they touched on that a little bit there before they give Chad's awakening, which it brings one of my favorite panels of Chad just standing up with his enormous right arm that he uses to just beat the hell out of the hollow, and I thought it was a great section. It's a lot less objective statements in this, and more subjectively. I just think Chad is a really good character, and I think this section, it brings him into the fray where he's able to join in the fighting now. Like, he has the power, he can see the hollows. It was a good way to drag him into the events.
Yeah.
Also, every time we see him, he's always protecting someone or like something else, like the bird or one of Ichigo's sisters here.
Yeah.
Hell, he's a good dude who's willing to like put down his life for others, and I think that's just that's a good trait for him to have, given the character that he is.
Oh yeah, I love Chad. I also think the simplicity of his backstory. We might get more later. As far as I remember, Kyle, I don't know any more than you. I really, we might get more later. He's just always been strong as his abuelo. Can you tell we speak Spanish? Is abuelo, who is like, you need to use those fists for good and to like protect people. And so it's short, it's simple, and I think it's definitely effective.
The big heart defender, I like him.
Yeah, no, I love Chad. I think he's great. I think this entire section is great. I really like Karen as well. So just to see her and Chad interact is always fun. But next we have
Orihime's section, where it's
a much more confusing power.
I was going to touch on that, and I'm going to say this not in an offensive way, but it's sort of just a repeat of Chad's section where, where it's Orihime and someone else. I know it's her friend. I'm just saying, like, how Chad had someone else to protect and then awoken his powers to protect that person. Same thing with Orihime in this case, where a bunch of different people are being attacked, and she awakens to her power in the moment to save her. Her power is those 6 fairies, and she can give them commands to like deflect. I forget the exact commands, but I know one of them is like deflect, attack, protect.
Yes,
that's the best way I can put it.
She can also heal with it, because the one like deflects like all the damage like off of someone.
I'm not going to say it's confusing. I don't know. I just wish that they would attack according to what she wanted, other than her having to give verbal commands. But it's whatever. That's a nitpick. I'm not gonna nitpick that. It's fine for what it is.
It's kind of like a stand.
Pretty much. I mean, the others so
Sex
far.
Pistols, but not based. Yeah. Sorry, Sex Pistols are already based.
Exactly. Yeah. The other powers have been, items or extensions of one's body, like Chad's arm or the Zanpaku toes. But for hers, it's just fairies, and I think that fits Orihime well. Where Orihime's not a violent enough person to where her power would be something where she does something. Hers is more like a defender power, where Chad's character he's a defender, but he fights. Orihime's is she wants to protect people, and her power does it without, directly causing violence. So I think, like a stand, since you brought up the comparison, I think their powers both fit their character traits very well.
Yeah. Now this is where this is something I've been waiting to bring up since the beginning, because you always ask me about Bleach's power system.
Yeah.
And I've never known what to tell you. I've just said like spirit energy and stuff like that.
And that's pretty much what it is.
Orihime and Chad are like the two, as far as I remember, exceptions to the power system. Quincy's I get, whatever. Chad, Orihime is like, I don't understand how she's connected to it. Chad and Orihime are the two that keep me from being like, yeah, I know what Bleach's power system is.
Well, because how it was explained, Ichigo's soul energy is so big, and that anytime he fights, they're nearby or like near there, that they've taken in some of his power and formed it as their own. Like they've absorbed his energy unknowingly and produced their own power, which I think is interesting. But if that's not how it works, then that's a very, I'm not going to say poor writing decision.
I wouldn't say that's not how it works.
It's an outlier.
Yeah, they're the only two that I personally have seen so far.
Yeah, there might be other people. There might be other people. Who knows?
And it's odd. But yeah, there might be later people, I don't know, during a Rankar or a Lost Substitute or 1,000-Year Blood War.
Yeah, other people might get their power, but as of now, like they're just the two outliers, which I think that's fine. You know, Chad and Orihime have been involved in a lot of the action, so to have them brought into the sequence of events because of Ichigo's big dick soul energy, which we'll touch on that.
Yeah.
So the next parts of my notes, there's stuff like, hey, he triggers their powers, they're given choices to stay or fight. The next big thing is we see hollows start congregating toward this big crack in the sky. And this is this leads into, I think, what is it, Menos Grandes, right? That's what it's called.
Yeah, Menos Grande or Grande.
Menos Grande. That's what it is, Menos Grande. But before that, there's a couple things that happen where we just see them all congregating, and Ichigo and Yuryu are fighting them, and I put the note of Yuryu watched his master die, Kawa bummer.
That's kind of true. This is where I watched my master die, Ichigo. Kawa bummer.
In the backstory, though, actually, what you said kind of actually fits exactly what Ichigo says in response. Because Ichigo's telling him this backstory. He's telling him all this stuff about like the Quincy's and the Soul Reapers. He's telling him, yeah, my master died because there were 5 hollows that jumped him, and it took the Soul Reapers 2 hours to get there. And Ichigo's like, dude, I don't fucking care. That stuff that happened, like, yeah, that's bad, but that's then, this is now. Get your shit together. That's an major oversimplification of what's said, but I do remember that Ichigo was like, look, that had nothing to do with me, right? Like, I don't care. That has nothing to do with the current situation. If you want change, like, make change.
Mm-hmm.
So they argue for a bit. They start fighting together. Kisuke and the others arrive before Menos Grande appears, which is hundreds of hollows that are fused together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rukia is going to try to go in and like help them get away, but Kisuke actually restrains her to let Ichigo fight, which I thought was very interesting, because we see later, but Kisuke, we finally see more of Kisuke and like why he wants Ichigo to do what he does, because he's just been in the background doing a lot of things like, oh, let's just let Ichigo fight. Let's see.
Yeah, let's see what's going on. Let's see how quirked up this white boy can get.
He's been a very curious character so far. We see Yuryu explains Ichigo as he is outputting soul energy 24/7. Yeah. And I wrote down that he explained his metaphor as like a water valve and a pipe, where if you stop it and turn it, like it impacts the power. That basically his metaphor was saying like there's a way for Ichigo to charge up his power, and if I can take in that power, like the power that Ichigo is charging me with, like I can power up my bow to a strong enough degree to actually deal damage to this big Menos Grande. And that's exactly what happens, and it actually retreats. And everyone's
well, technically, so what it is originally, yeah, Uryu is doing to take a big hit of it. But before he can, Ichigo breaks the connection, and Ichigo swings at it with his sword and his soul energy itself.
Oh, yeah.
And then that wound causes
he hits it with his sword. Okay, yeah, because later characters are saying like, oh, he's the one that drove off Menos Grande. No way, because he hits it with like a giant sword. Sword hit.
Big old sword. He punches it real good, He
Zoro's it real good.
That's so true.
We see that, Iryu actually saves Ichigo from like overcharging the energy, right?
Yeah, and then so Ichigo like so through that thing with Uryu, he's able to like output more or something, but then like it's like affecting him. So Uryu has to use that excess energy and just shoot it off.
Yeah.
Because, he absorbs energy from stuff around him. And so that brings Ichigo back to being, like, stable.
Yeah, and then I wrote the note of, he comes to terms with Soul Reaper's question mark. And so before we move on, just to, talk about a lot of what we said, because that was a bit of summarizing. The Menos Grande thing was a bit weird, not gonna lie. I mean...
Weird
it wasn't... It just kind of... I mean, it showed up and left. Like, I assume it's going to be important later, but it just, out of everything that happened, it was very, just, it was out of left field. Not like, not an objectively bad thing or anything, but just looking back on it, it was very interesting that, hundreds of hollows have fused, hits it once, it's gone, yay.
I will say that the
It was a good
a lot of the exposition. Well, I don't know. We get more explanation on Minos later.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean,
I think it's
right
near the end
now.
of Soul Society, or maybe at the beginning of a Rancor. We
And
get more information on Minos later.
Yeah, and then this, from what we talked about, this ties into what we said earlier about how Yuryu's not a bad guy. He's we see why he is the way that he is. We see why he's made his decisions. But granted, his starting low point wasn't so low to where him, working to be like, I'm sorry, that was irresponsible of me. Maybe Ichigo's not such a bad guy. Like, I can believe that Yuryu would change in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
It's believable because he's not a bad person. He's just misguided. He didn't kill anyone or threaten to kill a person. He was just irresponsible in what he did. Like, it's not like he summoned the Hollows assuming, people are going to die. He did it assuming I can save them.
Yeah.
So his ego was a bit too big, but I think it was a good introduction to Yuryu.
Yeah. No, I think this is a super solid little arc right before the little intro to Soul Society.
Yeah. The Soul Society stuff. So we see Rukia leaves. She just flat out leaves. Ichigo. I was going to say Kirito for some reason. Don't ask.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, you used to do that, didn't you? I don't understand. I really don't understand how you confuse the two.
I don't get it either. Anyway, she leaves Ichigo's place, and we see two people, Renji and Byakuya. Renji, I don't know too much about him, but I know that Byakuya is one of the squad captains for the Soul Society.
Yes.
That's shown, and that he's sisters with Rukia, her brother. He's the brother of sister. It's late. He's the brother of Rukia. And so they're on some secret mission, and we find out that Rukia is a wanted criminal. And can you touch on that for a moment? Like, I know that she was a criminal because she gave her powers to someone else.
Yes.
Like, is that all that it was?
Yes.
It seems rather underwhelming that that's the reason, but
yes.
Given, yeah, I mean that's literally it. Like, she gave her powers to Ichigo, and that's why they want to hunt her and have this big old execution of her. Like, is that? I mean, what are your thoughts on it? Because you're saying yes, like you agree, but it
I will
seems like
say nothing other than it is completely intentional. I would say don't worry about it too much.
Okay, well, I'll just say, like, right now, it is underwhelming that is the reason. If that elaborates later, I'm okay with that.
It's intentional.
Like, do you mean, like, they say that that's the reason, but there's another reason?
Like, yes, it's supposed to be like, why is this why is that crime? Like, why are they putting up so much punishment for that crime? Like,
Okay,
that's the intended, like, yes.
Okay,
it can seem a bit odd, especially your first time reading, because you're like, oh, this seems weird. It's supposed to seem weird. It's supposed to be weird.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
I figured I was gonna have to tell you that. So, well, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, it's intentional.
And before that, so we'll put that discussion on the back burner for whenever that becomes relevant again, and we find out, like, why is this punishment so harsh? Because that hasn't been explained yet. We see that Yuryu tries to protect Rukia for a bit. Renji sort of fucks him up. Ichigo comes in and actually does a good job against them before Byakuya's like, all right, playtime's over, and just not only does Ichigo just flat out have an awful loss, he's bleeding out, dying, and he severs his tie. Byakuya severs Ichigo's ties to his Soul Reaper powers, so he doesn't have any more Soul Reaper powers. Like, he's reset to 0. Yeah, basically.
He also, I don't know if this is like the origin of the dude, like, passing by you and then, like, opening his sword and closing it, and then you're like, cut. But this is an earlier example of it. It's the nothing personal kid.
Like, I mean, the terminology for it's like Ei Jutsu, I think, where it's just, I mean, okay, I know Ei Jutsu, that's the one where, like, you quick draw the blade, slash, and put it back, but isn't that what he does? Like, he cuts him, and he just puts his sword back like nothing happened. Ichigo's just like, oh, I'm fucking dying.
Yeah, but he does it so fast, Ichigo can't tell what happened.
Exactly. I mean, that is like Ei Jutsu. Somewhat. So, yeah. we see. Let me look at some of the important notes, see if I miss anything. We see Renji's Zanpakuto's name Zabumaru. It's like a cool chain sword. It reminds me of Violet Sword from Three Houses. I like it. I like Renji so far. He breaks Ichigo's sword, stabs him, and then they leave for Soul Society. And we see that Kisuke saves them, and they had a really good topic or discussion where Ichigo's like, he sits up, he's been saved by Kisuke, they're talking, and one line that really stood out to me, where Ichigo's like, I want to save her, and he's like, don't be an idiot, you're not able to. He goes, yeah, I can, and he says, don't use her as an excuse to kill yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know why, that line just held a lot of weight for me, where it's like, he's pretty much right. If he just rushes in as is, he's gonna die. So he explains to Ichigo, there's going to be time for the execution. You need to train with me for a little bit. I'm going to get you up to a strength that you need, and then you can go, okay? So that's sort of the rundown on it. And then, sorry, for the previous section, it's hard to comment on too much of it, knowing what you said of it's supposed to be underwhelming.
This is a huge moment for Bleach. Like, I mean, I'm not in like the Bleach, the whole what you call it, interaction where Ichigo confronts Byakuya and Renji and all that.
That was a hype moment where
that is huge. Specifically, the one panel, I don't know what you call it if you'll remember it, but where Rukia is looking back at Ichigo. And she goes, and I will never forgive you. And Ichigo's just looking at her. Like, I'm not too much into the Bleach community, but like I'm fairly certain that that's kind of like a
big moment.
Yeah, like iconic, slight spoilers for Dressrosa, like Luffy preventing Doflamingo from killing Law, like that panel.
Yeah,
it's iconic.
I would say, because the context for it is she's saying, like, don't come rescue me. If you do, I'll never forgive you.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Like, that was a pretty big moment. So, they get to training, where Kisuke starts training Ichigo. And, again, this is a much-needed training arc, because it's weird. I feel like most shonen would save this for later, where a character loses their powers, but Bleach does it relatively early, where Ichigo's had his soul reaper powers, he's doing good, and then it's just all taken away, and he has to learn the basics again. He has to relearn the basics and more before he can fight the next threat, which I think that's interesting.
Yeah, no, I think I think it works like that because of how Bleach originally started, with him getting his soul reaper powers from Rukia. It's something that had to happen sooner or later, and like, sure, chapter wise there hasn't been as many as others would have had, but I mean, in terms of like like a lot has happened.
Yeah. And sorry, what happens next? I'm just looking at my notes. So yeah, he talks with Kisuke. They go to school, and no one remembers Rukia except for like the very few people. Or he may tell Chad, like, all right, I've made up my mind. She inspires Ichigo just to go save Rukia. And we actually see Rukia in the prison. So I think there's like a small sequence with her and Renji, nothing too important at the moment. And this is the confirmation where we find out that Byakuya just completely removed his powers. And I forgot the girl's name, but Ichigo's training. While Orihime...
Ururu, I think.
Hold on. While Orihime and Chad are training with Mr. Yorichi, the cat. I really want context for why there's a talking cat. I feel like I'll get it later. He starts out fighting the girl. I forget what the reason for that was. I think it was just to get used to the Soul Reaper form.
Yeah, it was because he's not a Soul Reaper right now. He doesn't have the Soul Reaper powers.
Sorry, not Reaper. He just wanted to. It was get him used to.
Kanpaku, I think, is the name for just a soul. He's just a Kanpaku now. And he's so used to being a Soul Reaper that he's not used to just his Kanpaku form, which are two completely different things in terms of like mobility and everything. So he has to get used to that Kanpaku form. And he does that. Kisuke does that through having him like fight Ururu,
the small child. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna call it small child because I will not remember the name. That's the first part of their training. Let's see. Then there's the notes for the training stuff with Orihime and Chad. Ichigo's chain of fate is cut and the encroachment begins. And I thought like this was it's one of those few moments in a shonen where you're like, oh damn, he could actually just die. At least that's what I thought, because he's in. I put the note of Hell Climb Pillar, like from JoJo, with no arms. So his arms are restrained. He's in this big pit, and the goal is to get out before the chain starts eating away at him. And every so often, there's going to be this huge spike of pain, and he's going to turn hollow. And if he can't do it within 72 hours, they're going to kill him.
Yeah, lol.
He's hollowing, which it's weird. I don't know. It was just so odd seeing like them being like, all right, it's literally do or die. Like you're gonna turn into a hollow if you don't succeed. Yeah. We're literally going to murder you.
Mm-hmm. And it makes sense that it's like a difficult thing there, because it's not a normal thing for a normal Kanpaku to turn into a Soul Reaper.
No, of course not. And it wasn't the process sped up because of that.
It was sped up near the end.
Yeah, near the end. So Ichigo is in the middle of hollowing. Like I was like, oh my god, like how's he? I mean, the thought process of how's he gonna get out of this one in a shonen? He was in the middle of hollowing where he has a vision of this weird cloaked man flying around in like a city with like falling boxes. As interesting as that was, thought it was a little odd, but it's him meeting his Zanpakuto's form. And what's his Zanpakuto's name?
Zangetsu. We learned that a little bit later, but it's Zangetsu.
Yeah, we learn it later. I swore I put that down, but it just wasn't there. So we see him, meet Zangetsu, and he, in this weird vision, he finds the one box with Zangetsu's powers and awakens to them, which led to a moment I put a question mark where Ichigo for a moment became a half Reaper and a half Hollow.
God, that panel goes so hard.
Put on screen. That was a good panel.
I have been waiting forever to talk about that. Oh, dude, that panel goes so hard.
The tail. Sorry, you said.
Him with it goes so him with the hollow mask and the Soul Reaper stuff, just standing there iced out.
It was really cool, but that made me wonder, like, okay, is he a hollow? Is he a Reaper? Like, what is he? And it showed that he was able to like take in the hollow power, if I remember that correctly, and then fight with Kisuke. Which I'll be honest. The training, like the setup for the training itself was very typical of a shonen training montage, but the very ending of it with him, because most characters will just succeed and that's it, where it's like, oh, I did the thing I needed, but when it came down to it, Ichigo was just, I mean, he was half gone, like he was half hollowed, and that not iconic, but in the big panel where he's like half Reaper, half hollow, I thought like, this was a very weird way for the training arc to go, because I figured he would have just gotten the powers like most other shonen training arcs. And then we see Ichigo and Kisuke fight as the final part of training. That was I'd say like the setup was pretty typical for a shonen training montage, but I like the ending to it. I thought the ending where he meets his Zanbakuto Zangetsu and fights with Kisuke, that was pretty cool.
Learns his name. It's a big moment, what you call, where it's like Zangetsu, and it's like, it's like, that's pretty badass,
Yeah, and then we actually cut to the Soul Society, where we learn that there's 25 days until Rukia's execution. We see Byakuya talk with Jin and Kenpachi, and Kenpachi, he's the guy with the really weird, like, oddly long strands of hair with bells on them, right?
Yes, he is.
I know that... Yeah, he seems very important. The other guy looked like Shalnark from Hunter x Hunter.
He does kind of, doesn't he? Yeah.
That's the best comparison. Jin, or Gin, I don't know how you say it.
Yeah. Oh, no, I think I say it Jin. But I don't know. That's how I say it. You could say it either. I say it Jin.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay, I did put Zangetsu. I don't know why I didn't put it in quotation marks. I put the names in quotation marks on my notes. I just forgot to. So in the middle of them fighting, it cuts to this where we see Byakuya talk with Kenpachi and Jin. I forget what they talked about exactly, but it was them meeting, and Byakuya was like, how the hell are you two even captains, or something like that. And we learn that there's different companies where Byakuya is captain of the 6th company, Jin is captain of the 3rd, and Kenpachi is captain of the 11th.
Yes.
It's setting up like the company guards, or like the heads of the company, captains of company. It's setting them up. And since Bleach is an older, more traditional shonen, I feel like these are going to be characters that are squared off in a 1v1s or 1v2s. That's just my prediction. Not trying to knock on Kubo's writing, but there's, tradition tropes that most people follow, and that is one of them. So maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? We'll find that out later. We cut back to the fight. We see that even though Kisuke isn't a Soul Reaper, he has a Zanpakuto, which name is Benihime. And then we see Ichigo unleash the power of Zangetsu and pass the test.
And he caved out the mountain behind Kisuke, and Kisuke was like, "Uh-oh." We also get to see him without his hat for the first time here, and he is a cute little boy, isn't he?
Yeah, he looked all right.
He's a cute little boy.
Sure. Anyway, Ichigo passes his tests. There was a note I put about recovering Rukia's Gigai.
Yes.
Was that...
So the Gigai is like the artificial body that Soul Reapers use.
Because so they talked about how Rukia's Gigai was kind of like useless in Soul Society.
Well, yeah, because it's like the Soul Reapers, because they can't be seen by humans. So if they ever need to go to the world and like be a part of the world, they use Gigai.
Yeah, they go into a Gigai.
Yeah. No, they don't need a Gigai because at the beginning of the series, if they're just going out there to hunt hollows, they don't need one that gets in their way.
Yeah, but if they need to interact with people in the world or like interact with real world things, then they would inhabit a Gigai.
Yeah, and so the I can't remember whatever department it was got her Gigai back.
Yeah. Now, this spoilers for One Piece. This was the direct comparison I made. We see Ichigo, Orihime, Chad, Yuryu, and Mr. Yoriichi all gather up to the Senkaimon Gate, which leads them to the Soul Society. And they only have didn't it say 4 minutes or something?
4 minutes.
Which I'm guessing time moves very slowly in Soul Society. It has to, right?
I mean, maybe. I don't remember if there's anything specifically said about. Well, no. So it's not 4 minutes in Soul. Like they have 4 minutes. Like once they enter the gate, they enter like a little pocket dimension to get to Soul Society.
Okay, they have 4 minutes to get past that. Okay.
Yeah, and then
So the one thing I was going to say is, this is, I guess I'd say like a criticism, if I had to say. I do not feel that as of this moment I could believe that Ichigo, Orihime, Chad, Iryu, and Mr. Yoriichi, who's guiding them, I'm just saying those four, the four that we've known for a while, minus the cat. I don't see them being able to take on the Soul Society and rescue Rukia. That just seems like too drastic of a jump. With how big the Soul Society's been to build. It's like leading a raid on heaven or something. I don't know. I know that Soul Society isn't exactly the heaven of this world, but it's like they're marching into the place where the souls are. I can't bring myself to believe as of this moment that these four could take on the entire Soul Society, which I guess that's why they have a sneak entry arc. But whenever the fighting happens, I'll have to wait and see my judgment on that. But just as of now, the comparison I was going to make to One Piece is Luffy and crew. They raid a bunch of places, but specifically the raid against Eni's lobby. The difference there, though, is it wasn't just Eni's lobby. It was the raid against CP9 specifically, which was a small group, which made sense. But Soul Society seems so much larger, to where I don't know if I can believe these four could go tackle that realistically. Sorry, that was a lot to say.
It's a very interesting observation there.
Maybe look at more allies. Again, everyone, people who are Bleach fans, don't kill me when I say that. Stuff will probably change. I'm open to another look at this opinion. I'm open to a second opinion. But just as of now, I don't know. It seems like a bit much for them to go handle. If Soul Society was something smaller, I could see it. But with as big as it, there's 11 companies. There's more than that, I think. But
13. I don't think it's further to say that there's 13.
13. We know that this is a place where all the souls go. We know that there's people who probably oversee the captains themselves, and Byakuya was able to just one-shot Ichigo, I don't know, it seems like a bit much. But we'll have to wait and see on that, because this is what I read up to. They make it through the gate. They make it through the weird section of the walls closing in that absorbs spirits' energies. It's the Kototsu cleaner, I think is what they called it.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Through Orihime's power, they're able to get out, and they're spit out at Rukungai. You can tell I speak Japanese. The Rukungai.
Yeah.
Which was called the poor slums of the Soul Society. And the very last thing I read was there's this Siraimon Spirit Gate Guardian that starts blocking Ichigo and is like, you will not pass. And that was the last I read. I will say though, my criticism of I don't think that they're able to tackle what they're about to tackle aside, I like this idea of like, infiltrating the society, like excluding the fighting, infiltrating this giant society and finally understanding some of the secrets that have been held from us, the viewer. It's a very cool idea that's keeping me engaged.
Yeah, no, Soul Society, in my opinion, Soul Society is great. I love Soul Society.
I've heard people say, and Bleach fans, don't sue me, I've heard some people say that Soul Society is the best Bleach arc, and I don't want to be worrisome about it peaking right here and then, being lesser in quality afterward, but I have hopes for the series. I'm going into Soul Society with an open mind. We're finally past the substitute Soul Reaper arc, and, to cap off what we said, I enjoyed these past two arcs. I enjoyed the Yuryu section, like I said, and the pre-Soul Society things that happened were very interesting and held my attention throughout my reading.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you're liking it. I love Bleach a lot, and so it's been a ton of fun to be rereading it. And so just
how much of it have you read? At a certain point, you and I are going to be blind, right?
Yeah, it's whenever we get to a bit in a Rankar. I've read all of Soul Society and a bit of a Rankar.
Is it Arankar or a Rankar?
You can say it either way. There's probably a correct pronunciation.
Okay.
Honestly,
it's Arankar.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't watch YouTube Bleach videos, so I couldn't tell you how to pronounce it.
For the next time, I'm going to be reading chapters 72 through 117. I'm going to stop at the beginning of 118, which covers the Soul Society. The Soul Society's sneak entry section of the arc.
Yeah, admittedly, I don't know exactly where this one ends in terms of Soul Society. I have an idea, but I can't be 100% on it. All I can say is there are a ton of cool moments coming up, and I hope you like Soul Society at least a little bit of the amount that I do.
Here's what happens. As of now, my notes say sneak entry. Then after that, it's abbreviated Soul Society: The Rescue, which is split into part 1 and part 2. So I'm excited, man. Like every big shonen like this, it has a certain point where it hits its more traditional arc. Naruto has it has what they're doing. God, I bring up Naruto, I can't remember the name. Fuck. It has the Chunin exam. Sorry, it has the Chunin exam.
One Piece is Arlong Park.
I'm just gonna say Arlong Park. Yes, for that. Dragon Ball, I'd say Dragon Ball Z specifically. Like the Frieza saga is a pretty good example of how most of these arcs will go. Because the Saiyan saga,
good old Freezer,
was an adjustment.
I love Freezer.
Yeah. Anything you want to say about Bleach right now? Because I'm very much looking forward to continuing the Soul Society arc, and I enjoyed everything I read. Chapters 1 through 71. They're a pretty good introduction into Bleach. The worst I could say about Bleach so far is some chapters or some sections of chapters felt a little dull, but those moments were very far and few between. And I think Kubo's world building is paying off very well. Like we've spent a lot of time with these characters in dire crisis situations. We've seen a lot of their personal lives. I've grown attached to the ones that are going into the Soul Society, so I have personal stakes for what happens. I'm interested in seeing if they're able to complete their task, and I'm excited for what's going to happen next because I'm delving into the unknown.
Soul Society is, in my mind, where Bleach really becomes Bleach. Whenever I think of Bleach, I think of Soul Society. I don't really think back a lot to Substitute Art. You know, I mean, no offense, it's good setup, but whenever I think like Bleach, like Soul Society, at least Soul Society being the only full arc other than Substitute that I've read. Substitute or Soul Society really is a lot of the meat of Bleach. It's we're finally getting into it.
When you think One Piece, you don't really think Syrup Village.
Yeah, no,
So,
you think One
Piece.
Piece.
It's a fair comparison.
What you call it? You think
It's a fair
Marine
comparison.
Ford, whatever.
This is the first arc where Bleach is, from what you're describing it, like gets its footing.
Yeah, this stuff that happens in this arc makes Bleach Bleach.
The training wheels are off. Bleach is happening. Bleach is going to go save Rukia. I can't wait.
Yeah, no, Bleach is a great main character. I love him. And
hopefully next time we can record somewhat right after I read, so we don't have to wait like 2 weeks to record this.
That'd be very nice. Anything else you got to say, Kyle?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, thank you everyone for listening. I'm very happy to be reading Bleach. It's one of the few big shonens that I don't know anything about, so I'm gonna take it in stride and keep an open mind.
Yeah, if you're this far in the video, obviously there's something you like, so make sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment telling me how wrong we are on everything. Feel free to spoil Kyle in the comments because we'll probably be on a rant card by the time this video comes out. Hopefully past it, but you never know. Be sure to check out the Rat's Nest link in description for more content like this. As of the time of this, we might still be on Dragon Ball Z. We'll probably be on Super at this point. And we also do weekly Chainsaw Man and One Piece chapter reviews. So if that sounds interesting, check that out. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.